Hello and welcome to another tutorial. So this time round, what we are going to be doing is we are going to be building a simple shop interface and a bit of the infrastructure behind that. So I want to make something so that characters in the world, the player would be able to go to a shop. The range of items there in that shop can vary, so we're going to have everything, the UI be dynamic, and so the user can go and purchase things from the shop there. So let's dive on in. So we're going to be doing a lot of user interface stuff, and you'll see I've intentionally sort of not set up anything yet. We're going to call this the shop demo scene. So, okay, if we think about this, we need a bunch of different items, and those items need to be able to be purchased. They're going to need things like descriptions. There may be other stuff we add into them later on. So this is a great example of where scriptable objects can be really handy. So I can use a scriptable object for each item, and then the shop itself, I can just pass it a list of, okay, here are the items that are available for sale. So let's start getting our scripting logic set up. So I'm going to create one script that is going to be our shop item. So we'll have our shop item. Now, items, we probably want to group them into categories. Now, we could do those categories just as a string that's on that shop item. That would absolutely be an option. But again, there might be things we want to add in later. Categories, we might want to give them an icon. It's also prone to easily making typos. And I like to try and structure things so that we can't run into cases where, okay, we've made a typo, now this bit of data doesn't work. So I'm actually going to create another script that is going to be shop item category. So we'll actually have two sets of scriptable objects, one that defines the items and one that defines the categories. That will mean that if we need to add in extra information for those categories later on, that we can just do that in a much easier manner, which will be good. So let's get these scriptable objects set up. So I need to reload our solution. So we'll just load up our category and our item. So we need to convert these over to being scriptable objects. So same approach we always follow. We have our create asset menu. We set up our menu name. So we're going to have shop and then item. And then we'll have file name, shop item underscore. So that looks good. And then I'm just going to copy and paste that over just to make it a little bit less typing is always good. Category, and then we'll do the same here. And we'll get this script set up first because this one's actually pretty simple in terms of with the categories. So all we'll have with the category for now is a public string name, and we could add in descriptions, things like of that, but I think at this stage we're not likely to have that. So we've got the name in there, that's the main thing. Then our shop item, okay, well, these can all be public because we want to easily be able to access them from other things. So we'll have our shop item category. We will have a name. This one, I think we should support having a description, even if we don't use it straight up. That is something that I could see that we would want to use. So I think that's an important one. We can also, for this, indicate that it is give it so that we've got a text area, which will allow us to actually indicate the number of lines. So we can give it, let's say 3 to 5 lines. So, okay, that's good. We'll have the description. We could add in things like, an image, stuff like of that to show with it as well. What we can also set up is a price. So, okay, let's have our price. Now, working out prices for things is all in the actual data type we use for this is quite important. I generally, with something like a cost, I would steer towards using integer data types rather than floating point. And what that means is, say you had something that was $5.32. I would represent that as 532 and then do that conversion to the 5.32 at the point where you display it. But the tracking calculations behind the scenes do that with just the integer maths. The reason for that is floating points don't represent a number perfectly. There is error in there. And depending upon the particular number, that amount of error can vary. And it's not an insignificant amount. And it can add up over time. So in the interest of avoiding that, easiest thing is to use integers and do some conversions there. If we needed to swap very, 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 very large currency amounts, then we could start to do what I would do with something like if that is probably set up our own type. So set up our own struct that holds the actual value there, and then we could store it as, okay, here's the dollar component, here's the cents component. It would be something that's an option in a case like of that. But for now, I'm going to just set up the cost. So we'll be able to configure the particular cost for it. So that's good. We've got our basic sort of set up for the items. Now we can actually get some bits of data set up. So what I'm going to do is I am going to create a data folder, and we will have shop, and we're just going to keep things sort of neatly organized. So, okay, under shop, we can create some categories. So what I'm going to do in terms of with this is to keep it simple and to make it so that it's easy for me to come up with enough different ones. I'm going to go with having this be something where we will have a category that is fruit. We'll have another category that can be vegetables. And let's also have drinks. So we'll keep it, just have a few categories. We can just set up our name for each of these. And then we'll be able to create our items. So by setting the default name to shop category underscore, that makes it really easy for coming in and naming things and having stuff be nicely grouped. So I don't really need to put the items in a different folder because that prefix is ensuring that they are blocked out fully separate from the categories, which is handy. So we're going to need a whole bunch of shop items. I'm going to create a few different ones here. So, okay, let's do drinks first. We'll have water, and we'll just have juice. So don't want to go too overboard with the range of ones. I will, for one of the categories, have lots and lots of entries there, but for the other ones, I'll keep it fairly sort of simple. So we'll have potato. Let's also have that one. I'll leave just because I'll need to create more clones of things. So we'll have carrot. And then let's get even more fruits set up. So then now, apart from being a challenge of can I remember 8 different fruits, we'll hopefully be able to get all of these set up. Lemon. This will be quite embarrassing if I end up forgetting enough fruits to be able to set up, but I think we'll be fine. Mango, pear. I think grapes count as a fruit. They do now. And kind of tempted to put tomatoes in there, seeing as technically they are a fruit. Why not? Let's have this be amusing. So, okay, we've got a lot of different items set up. So, okay, we can now configure the some of the settings for it. So the categories, because I want to be able to easily set that, what I can do is I can select all of the ones that fall into a particular category and then just configure the category for them, because I want to make sure I don't forget setting up the categories, because that's obviously quite important. So we have these, and then the last one's set up. So then price-wise, I am just going to, for each one, chuck in a number between basically 3 and 10, just continuing to count up. The actual prices, really the only reason I'm putting these in is just to be able to have some useful information for display. So we've got a 10, and then I might, just for some larger units, chuck in a 100, a 1,234. It's going to be a really expensive tomato, and we'll make the water cheap, because why not? So, okay, we've got these bits set up. I'm going to just put very simple text in with each of these. What I recommend generally when you're setting up some initial text for things is go for an approach of make the length of the text roughly the sort of length that you would foreseeably see. Potentially a little bit larger is what I would also consider with that, just because that way then you've got a reasonable test. So definitely make the text long enough. Something to consider with that is if you are having this be available in other languages, if you are localizing something to different languages, it's worth in particular in that case allowing a larger length for the text. And the other, so two things that I recommend if you're planning on supporting localization. Make sure that you have a large amount of text as your test text, just because with some languages, if you're writing stuff by default in English and then translating that to other languages, English will at times be briefer than other languages. German in particular often tends to take up a bit more space. So allowing a bit more space from the beginning means that then when you go and localize to those other languages, that the text fits okay. So making sure you've got enough space is the first thing. The other related thing is making sure that you don't have any cases where the text is going too small. Because if the text is going too small, then when you localize that to languages that, I'm not sure the correct term, but that you kind of use characters rather than sort of longer, I guess, like letters. So use sort of glyphs, characters rather than an alphabet as such. Those, if the things are shrunk too much, if the text is too small, then they're not going to be legible, which is also really bad. So we want to make sure that text fits. We want to make sure that it's going to be readable by anyone that's working with it. The other thing to consider there is by allowing enough space, it means that if we want to support things like switching to fonts that are easier to read, that we've got the capacity to much more easily do that, and that's a good thing. So being able to increase the font size, being able to switch to something like a dyslexia-friendly font can be a really good addition to a project, because then it makes it easy for people to be able to play it. And at the end of the day, that's what we want. We want our games to be easy for people to play, and that the challenge in the game comes from the systems in the game, not things like issues, stuff we've missed in the user interface. All right, so we've got lots and lots of items now. So now we can start setting up our shop. So when I'm building up UI, I always do this in the game view. And what I'm going to do, just to make it so that our UI stands out a little bit more clearly. We're going to switch our background to a solid black color. So our UI, we start out with always adding in a panel is usually what I go with. So I'm going to call this the shop UI. I have got it in a separate canvas for now. That might be something where, depending upon the structure of your game, it wouldn't be in a separate canvas. That's okay. I'm going to have things grouped. What I'll do is I'll call this shop canvas, and then the panel will be shop UI. That way, if you are needing to embed this in an existing canvas, you can just drag everything from the panel down. Or if it needs to be entirely separate, then we've got the canvas set up. So it'll cover for both use cases. So I want this to be able to scale with the screen size. So I generally would set this up. We go to scale with screen size. In terms of design resolution, for desktop applications, and actually for a lot of mobile ones, I generally find setting the reference resolution to 1920 by 1080 works quite well. Tends to scale down well, scales up well. I don't generally find a need to design them for 4K, but depending upon the devices you're running on, you might want to. Okay, we've got our main panel. That's good. So initially with the UI, I just block stuff out and then go and sort of do the theming and the coloring of it afterwards. So with our shop UI, there's a few different things we're going to need. And I usually block these out with panels. So I'm going to I want a panel for up the very top, and I want a panel for down the bottom, and a main sort of middle panel. So we'll have a header, we'll have body, and we will have footer. So what I would do is our header one. Now, there are ways that we could go about this. We could look at using a vertical layout group, for example, with this. Because these sections are quite fixed, I generally wouldn't use a vertical layout group. What I would do is set it, so our top one is configured like this, and maybe a height of probably 100. Similar for the footer, except it ends up being the opposite. So we set that up down the bottom, and it probably a height of like 50, maybe even 75. Then the body, well, we have 175. So that's good. We've got the rough sort of blocking out. And then I want a little bit of padding. So if I bring all of these in a little bit, like that, I could then do the same with the footer. Now that means the body then shrinks a little bit as well. So the top can do 105, like that. So that's good. We've got that roughly sort of blocked out. I'd probably at this point start to sort of tweak and adjust things like the exterior colors, stuff like that. So I'm going to make that reasonably visible. So I think that looks all right. So that's good. Might go for 25, a little bit paler again. And then our header ones like of this, we'll just tweak the colors of these also. So I might make those a darker color. Help things sort of stand out. So that's good. Now the header, straightforward, it's just going to have text in it. So we can import the essentials. And so we'll get the header set up. So header text, we just want that to be largely fully centered. Just configure all of that. Shop title. So we want to have that. This is potentially a thing that we might want to change. And so we'll just up the size of that quite a bit. So that's good. The footer, Well, we're going to need a couple of buttons. Really, the main button that we need for what we're doing is we're going to need a purchase button. So we'll change that to be called purchase. Now this is one where we might end up having multiple buttons down here. So we're not going to need it for this sort of case, but we could have something where there is a exit button, for example. So we'll set up so there is an exit button, but it will intentionally do nothing at this stage. So what we also want to consider is the placement of these is an important thing. You want to try and structure your UI so that it's unlikely for people to make sort of simple mistakes where they hit the wrong button, things like of that. So part of that comes down to there needs to be a convention we want to follow with our UI throughout the game. So if you always place cancel buttons down the bottom left, then we make sure we always place the cancel button down the bottom left. That's something where you want to make sure you have a consistent language to the user interface for the game. So the exit button, I am going to have that be positioned on the right-hand side. So with that, oops, the Y wasn't the one we needed to change. X was the one we needed to change. So its height, we want it to take up most of the space. We'll make that -5. And we can make the text larger, like that. Purchase button, I'm going to keep that in the center because I think in the center there, it's less likely for someone to accidentally hit that button. So that's good. So that can go up to 48. So we can see we need to increase the size of that one. Something to remember, you can use maths here with these variables in the inspector, which can be easy for making sort of small changes. So, okay, we've got our shop title, we've got our couple of buttons. Now the actual body here, I want to have this set up so I have categories on the left and then the actual items in the main area. So with that, I'm going to need a couple of things because in both cases, these are going to be things that need to be able to scroll. And scroll views are one of the most frustrating things to work with in Unity. Getting them set up so that they're working the way that you need is a little bit involved. And it can be a really frustrating headache, especially when you need stuff to be dynamic. So that's something to just be aware of with scroll views. They are a little bit frustrating to actually work with. So we're going to have categories. And then we're going to have another scroll view that will be items. So we'll set that up. So, okay, categories. That's going to be over on the left side here. So we adjust it. So it would be 5. Similar sort of setup. We will make the default width of that, I think about 400 works. Now I want to get rid of that the horizontal scroll bar. So what I have to do for that is I'm going to turn off, but you see we can't turn it off yet. And the reason for that is you have to go to the scroll view and the horizontal scroll bar, you actually have to go and clear that setting there. Now it will let me turn that off. And then I have to tweak the vertical one so that it covers the full range. So just something to be aware of with it. And then we generally also can see the panel here. So the mask is controlling the area there. It's this here that we change. So you have it like that. So I would generally, for something like the categories, we could have it be faded a bit. Main thing comes in, we need to have stuff easily readable, easily understandable. So, okay, good so far. I'll leave that set up like that. Then we have our items one. So this one, we can have expand to take up sort of the full area. So that will be 405, and then we just configure all of those. We're going to again get rid of the horizontal scroll bar. And if you needed to get rid of the vertical instead, it's a very similar process. All that changes is really what you're actually getting rid of. So I just want to make sure the colors are exactly the same here. So that's good. We've got our areas where things will appear, and we can test, okay, things seem to scale all right. So this will handle a reasonable range of sort of UI scalings. Okay, so that's good. We also, in the footer, I'm going to chuck in a bit of text for our amount of funds that we have. So again, for something like of this, I would block this out and indicate kind of the largest sort of possible value I'm expecting to actually support. We'll bring that over to the left-hand side. And the width, probably 300 will give us enough, most likely, but we do want to get that position nicely. We probably want to increase the sort of size that we've got there for that, so that's good. So, okay, we've got our funds, we've got those key bits. We need to now set up so that our items actually can be displayed here. So how I generally go about doing this is, because we are going to need some prefabs. So I'm going to set up a panel here. So I'm going to call this shop category UI panel. Well, sorry, actually, it should have shop UI category, I think will be a better name. So this is going to need a bit of text in it. Category name, or just name, I think will be fine. We'll make that fill up the entire space. And we'll just have that be centered and left aligned like that. We probably need to indent it a little bit, which is good. We'll adjust the background here. So, okay, that's good. We'll reduce the height of this so it can stay like of that. We can adjust the anchor, but what I would also then do is tweak the height of this, maybe 10, because I want to have here then a vertical layout group. So on this content, I'm going to add in a vertical layout group. Now the first thing it will do is kind of break our text. That's okay. We want it to control the child's width. We don't want it to force expand the height, because what that will do is then now when I add in additional ones, they just fit in there, which is good. But what we'll notice if I run this, because I don't need any code to make the UI functional, our scroll bar disappears. It doesn't work. So what we need is our content here needs to be adjusting to the size. So we add in a content size fitter. And we change vertical fit to preferred size. And now when we run it, what we'll see is what view appears and we can happily scroll. So, and it's that combination generally of the vertical layout group and the content size fitter is the main thing you're usually setting up. So, okay, that's good. I won't turn that into a prefab yet, but what I will do is shop UI category, and that will end up getting attached onto here. So I usually set up little bits of script on the prefabs, allows me to make the interface a little bit cleaner, I find. So, okay, that's good. We've got that one set up. We do a similar approach over here. So we create our panel. So shop UI item. So item is going to need a couple of things. It's going to need a name, a description, and the cost. So, okay, we're going to need a couple of bits of text. I'm just going to add in all of those. So we'll have name, description, and cost. So name, I want that to be positioned up at the top left. Position that here, like that. Item name, we'll increase the size of that a bit. Might actually make it that this is a lot wider. We'll give it a width of like 400. And we can test if it is really long. So with that, I'm going to increase that to maybe 800. That seems to be plenty. So that's good. We've got our item name. The cost, you want to think about where do we want the cost positioned. I'm actually thinking cost probably would be good positioned down the bottom left side. So we can position it like that. Now with Y, that should actually have been 1, so that's good. The text by default like sort of orients towards the top, so we need to adjust that. So again, we put in some test text so we can make sure that we get the width correct. So I think that looks good. So you know this one's got a height of 50, effectively 55. Name is actually the same. So our description, we use just the stretch option. And this way, we can make this fit. So here is our item description and even more text for it. So this gives us a bit of a sense. I might actually increase the spacing a little bit more. Make it that it's a little bit more indented as well. I think will help with legibility for it. So that looks all right. I then can adjust the size of this. So at the moment, not that we really need to adjust our left and right because they're going to get overridden, but just for the sake of it. So that looks all right. Maybe minus another 10. Cool, so that looks pretty good. Happy with that. We again adjust our tinting. For our shop UI items, we know we're going to need to do the exact same thing here. Where we're going to need a vertical layout group. We control width, we don't force expand height. And we're going to need a content size fitter set to preferred size. So we can just test, okay, we add in a whole bunch of ones. Let's make sure scroll bar works correctly. And it does, which is good. So same sort of thing, it's going to need a little bit of script added onto it. So this is the thing, when we're setting up something like a shop, most of our work actually goes into setting up the UI. Like that's where the majority of the work is for this. So bring this in, and I haven't turned these into prefabs yet. That is intentional. Now I'm at the stage where I can turn these into prefabs, because we're going to have using TM Pro. Then here we'll have serialize field, text mesh pro UGUI, category name. Now I don't need anything for start and update. It is going to probably need to keep track of potentially the actual scriptable object associated with it. So we'll have a shop item category that doesn't need to be serialized field. We'll have a link function. I might call it bind. It's usually what I go for. So the idea is this is going to bind category. So we'll do category like that. Category name. And we just transfer that over. So that will work for our shop UI one. So we'll be able to prefab that in a moment once we've linked up the text. So we've got our text linked up. I'm going to then create a folder for our prefabs. So our shop UI one is ready to prefab. So then I can just delete it from here. Shop UI item, we need to do the same setup with it. So it's already got the script on it, and we've got 3 bits of text that we need to configure for this. So it will again, if they're using TM Pro, it's going to again have in here Text Mesh Pro UGUI, so we will have the item name. We will also have the description. Let's call that description. And we will then also have price. So what I'll do, similar sort of thing, shop item. We will also then have a bind function with this, where we go and say, okay, well, item is equal to item. Then we can set up things like our item name is item.name. Oops, that should be .text. Then we do the same thing for description. Just description.text. So we just transfer over all the stuff. So, and then finally, the price.text. Well, we might want to format this in a particular way. And if we do want to have it that we drop off a couple of the decimal places, or we do have it that this value is actually sort of the cents value, what I would do is this. A couple of ways of approaching this, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, could just do item price or item cost, like that. But we want to have that be scaled down, so divided by the 100. And we just want that to be purely a display thing. Might also be nice to be able to just go item display cost, so that it's the item that's doing that conversion. Different ways of setting it up. For now, I'm just going to go like this, divided by 100. I'm going to put that in parentheses and indicate, we can indicate then sort of the formatting that we want for this. So I want it to always have at least A0 to start with, and do like that. So we can link these elements up now. So we just, again, we link up our name, description, and cost. Now the other thing I will do is these bits of text, I want to change these so that it doesn't treat them as a raycast target, that it just falls through to the panel behind them, which is a raycast target. So the shop item is ready to be prefab now. Got that. Now we can actually start to set up our main shop UI. So we're going to have shop UI. Now it's going to need a bunch of things. It's obviously going to need to refer to the panel, stuff like that. So that's good. So it gets a lot of bits set up in it, because it's going to need the available funds. So we're going to need a Text Mesh Pro available funds. It's going to need to be able to instantiate things at particular locations. So we're going to need a transform category UI root. We're going to need a similar thing for the actual shop items. So item UI root. So that's good. We are going to need our prefabs as well. So we're going to need a game object that is category UI prefab. Going to need another one that is item UI prefab. That's good. We are going to need also then stuff for like our purchase and exit buttons. So public void on clicked purchase. And we're going to need an on clicked exit, which won't actually do anything at the moment, but we want to just have that there so we've got support for it. So, okay, good. We need to know what items we've got available as well. So we're going to have a serialized field, list, shop item, available items. And then what we will do is in start, refresh shop UI. Refreshing the shop UI is a thing we're going to need to do a bunch, so good to actually have that there as a dedicated function, because it is a thing we are going to need to be doing at multiple times. So, okay, couple of things we want to do with this is I need to go through the available items and work out what categories I need to show. So, okay, that I can do. So determine our category list. So for each, and we'll have var item in available items. So I want to have a set of our active categories, and I want to be able to easily sort of sort that. So we're going to have a list of, and this will actually be our shop item categories. Now, we might want to end up storing the UI associated with that. So what I'm actually going to do is we're going to have a dictionary. So what the dictionary is going to be is we will have shop item category, and we will have the UI associated with it. Shop category to UI map. So that looks good. I am going to just have this as a separate thing of all of the shop categories. So down here, I'm going to set those up. So shop categories is a new list of that. Shop category to UI map is again a new dictionary. Set that up. So in here with the items, we can go and check, is that item's category already in the map? So, okay, F shop category to UI map contains key, item, and in particular, we want to actually check if it doesn't contain it. So item and its category. So it doesn't contain it, then we do shop categories, add, and we will add in item category. And we haven't set up the UI yet. That's intentional. So what I would like to be able to do is I would like to sort that list of shop categories. So I want to be able to do something where I can go, okay, well, shop categories, sort, and then we need to give it a way of being able to sort these, because I want to sort them by name. Because if I just try and instantiate stuff now, it's actually going to be not necessarily in order. It's going to be in the order that it encounters the categories, which isn't ideal. So I want to be able to sort this. So the sort is something that I can actually set up inline. We can do something that it's called a lambda expression. So right like of that. And then we can say what I want it to do is LHS, and its actual default one there is actually going to be pretty good. So that should sort the categories. Now we can instantiate the UI. So we go for each the category in shop categories. Then for each one, what we do is, okay, we'll have our category game object is, and we go instantiate, and we have our category prefab. We want to instantiate that with the category UI root, and that's all we need for that. We want to get then the script for it. So category UI, we go category game object, get component, shop UI category, and we can store that then in the dictionary after we tell it to bind to that category. And then we go shop category to UI map category equal to the UI. So this, once we link up the different elements we need to here, should mean we get our set of categories spawning. So we've got to link up, obviously, a bunch of different things. So a category UI root, item UI root. We need to link up our prefabs. And we need to tell it the available items. Easiest way here is I would lock that, go to our data, select all of the items, and drag them in, and then we can unlock. So that should be enough that we can actually run this and we see the categories appear. So let's find out. We can see it's gone, and what it's added in there is it's added them in multiple times. So that means it's gone and incorrectly added ones, and that's because we were checking the UI map, but we wouldn't have things in the UI map yet. So we have to make sure we change this to use the one that we're actually populating. So now we can test it again. So we can see it's got the different ones, and they are in order, which is great. All right, so now we can actually get it that we want to, when we click on a category, that it goes and actually selects the items from that. So we need to know that that a particular thing has been clicked on. So what I'm going to have to do is I want to actually set up here a void on category selected. And what I want this to do is that it gets provided into it a shop item category and the particular category. And I want the actual category UI to receive that. So what I can do is I want to be able to actually just say here on category selected. Now we're getting an error at the moment, which we would expect, because we need to go and then update our shop category. So let's go to our shop category. And in terms of what this needs to take in, this can take in, and I'll bring in using Unity engine.events. So this can take in a Unity action that provides a shop item category on selected. So that's good. Call that on selected FN, so on selected function. Now this is happy, so we need to make sure we're storing that. So this is the handy thing. You can actually set these up like this, and they're just treated as a variable. Now we need a public void on clicked. And what we would do is we would go on selected function, invoke, and we provide the category. So that will be good. I'm also going to have here public void set is selected. The reason being is we might want to change the visual appearance. So that looks good. I will set up here serialize field, Unity engine. We'll actually bring in the include for this, Unity engine.ui. We'll have the image, so background panel, and I'm going to set up also a couple of colors, selected color, and a default color. So the idea being, when it's created, we'll do set is selected to false, so nothing starts out as being selected. And then what happens here is our background panel, the color gets changed. If we are selected, it uses the selected color, otherwise the default one. And we'll end up needing a very similar thing for the item as well. So we've got that set up. Means we need to go and update the prefab a little bit, and that's okay. So the prefab, we need to remember and link up the image here so that it can be referring to that. We'll copy that color and we will paste that in both. And if I go to the scene view, then I'm able to see the text of this a little bit more, but it's not going to display necessarily amazingly. But then when it's selected, we can say, okay, let's pick color, and it might be just a very pale. I want to make it that our text, which the text is white, still stands out. So we don't want it to be too strong a color, but we'll see how that color goes. But now we need to know that we've been clicked on. So the first thing I'm going to do is with a name. I'm going to go and change this so that we turn off it being a raycast target. We just do the raycast target stuff for the actual image. Then we can add in, we go to event, and we can add in an event trigger, a new event type, and we can go pointer click. And then what we can do is we can bring in our shop UI, go to the category, and we can go on clicked. So that should mean, when we save our changes, that with our shop, these entries here should now be clickable. We'll find out. Now nothing happens when we click on them, but it should actually be doing something. We just haven't gone and set up, okay, which is the particular selected category. So that's all right. Going to have shop item category, selected category. Now, when we go and refresh the UI, this category might not be part of it anymore. So we're going to just check, okay, shop categories contains this particular one, then we would be able to run on category selected, selected category. Otherwise, I'm going to set it to null. Just so that if we do have a category selected, we maintain which one is actually selected. So, okay, this is good. We can go and check. Well, firstly, we don't need to do a check there. We'll go selected category is equal to this. We then loop through all of our categories. Newly selected category. So do this. So we can go, okay, we loop through category in shop categories. And then with each one, what we do is we go, okay, well, shop category to UI map category. And this is why we set up the dictionary to make it really easy to access this. So we can go set is selected if category is equal to selected category. So it makes it very straightforward to update and keep track of things. So using the dictionary makes our lives a lot easier for this. So now we want to check. What we should be able to do is click. We should hopefully see a change, which we do. And importantly, only one thing is able to be selected at a particular point in time, which is perfect. Now when we've selected a category, then we don't want to do refresh shop UI as in the full one. We want to do refresh shop UI items. So we'll have that function up here. So we do this. Now I would also then, in this case, we can leave that exactly as it is there. That looks good. What I could also do, because this is actually pretty safe to run without that, I might actually change this so if it doesn't contain it, go like that. It's because our own category selected is actually safe to use a null with. So again, just trying to keep the logic clean and simple and reuse the other functions where possible. So, okay, we've got our list of items. So the items, I'm not going to do any sorting on them. We could do sorting based upon price, based upon name. Really depends upon what we are wanting to do. We do want to have similar thing with, we want that same kind of dictionary. So I'm going to have a dictionary that is shop item, shop UI item, shop item to UI map. So we're going to create that down here as well. So that's our new dictionary. And then what we want to do is go through all of the items that match the current category. So for each var item in available items, so if item category is not equal to our selected category, we just continue. Otherwise, we're going to instantiate the UI, and I'm just going to grab this because it's almost identical what we're doing. So it's a very similar pattern that we follow for these things. So this goes to our item UI prefab, our item UI root. This is our item game object, item UI. So this approach, I do recommend sort of using this sort of structure for things. I find it works really, really well. We bind it to the item. There will be an on-item selected function. We know that that's guaranteed going to be a thing. So our item UI, shop item to item UI map. So, okay, on item selected. Well, let's change that. So we've got on item selected. That will provide shop item. And logic-wise, it's going to do the same sort of thing here. So we're going to need a similar sort of setup where we have shop item selected item. So that looks good. And actually, I will move shop categories down to here because we only use that in this. So we don't need to have that be something that's up the top here. Was a chance was going to need it, but it ends up not being things, so just rename it to match. So that's good. Actually, no, we did need it. I completely forgot about the category selection logic. So we will keep that there. It's easy to miss things like of that. We've got our shop item. So our selection logic here, well, we would go selected item, and we'll rename that to newly selected item. Newly selected item, so that's good. Well, this one I'm going to loop over shop item to UI map. We could also loop over just sort of the values and check stuff, but I think this is a reasonable way of doing it. So var item is the value, and the item UI is the key. So then whether it's selected or not, well, we would go item UI set is selected. Item is equal to selected item. So update the selection. So now we know a few functions that we need here. We know our shop UI item is going to need to bring in using the Unity engine of dot events. We know it's going to have a Unity action that passes back a shop item. That will be our onSelected function. We know that will get passed in here. So Unity action, shop item. We just need to stash that. We know we will have our set is selected, which will default to false. But we'll then have public void set is selected. Cool. Like of that. And it's going to need the same sort of things here for those colors. So we can bring those colors directly over because we will have those. We know it is also going to use pretty much the same logic as this, to the extent that I will just actually duplicate it because they're the same. And this is why I structured things this way, so that they are able to be easily set up. We do have our background panel as well that we bring over. So there we go. So that's ready to be set up, and it doesn't need too much in the way of changes. So we need to bring in Unity Engine UI. The error we're getting here, we actually had these swapped. So now that should be happy. We've got to update the prefab, which is okay. We go to our shop UI item. So we need to link up the panel. So that's okay. We bring that over. We set the default and selected color. Selected, I will again use the similar approach. We also then need to add in, again, an event trigger. We add in our pointer click. And it's going to talk to the shop UI script and send our onClicked. So this should mean we have items that we can click on, that when I select a category here, now we do get a bunch of errors. So we do want to check and see what's happening with that. So in this case, our shop categories is coming through as null. And that's because we've refreshed the shop UI, we've created all of the bits here. Now it might be trying to do this a little too early, but that looks entirely fine. So we'll just check and see. Got everything linked up. And this is coming from start, it does on category selected, and then shop categories is null. But shop categories and that's because we left part of our change from there in. So that's fixed up. Don't have it now. We have our list of ones. So when I click on drinks, I see those ones. Click on this, and it's added in the other ones. So that's not good. So what I can do is I need to now have it be clearing things out. So what I would do is for int child index is equal to item UI root child count -1. And then I go here and I can say, okay, well, child game object, we can go item UI root, get child. We give it the child index, and I access the game object. And then what I do is I go destroy child game object. So clear the current UI. And we're going to add that into the categories as well, because that's something where, you know, if we're going into the shop multiple times, we could have categories that are already there. So we're going to clean out everything that's in category UI root and clear out those. So that's good. And I always clear them in the reverse order. So, okay. Should now be able to select on these, only keeps the ones that we need. Now we do see the number there is not appearing correctly. Now it might appear correct for some of the ones that we made very expensive, and it does, but we don't get the decimals for a lot of ones. And that's because of how it works with numbers here. This is an integer. This is also an integer. So it gives a result that must be an integer. If I just do 100f, that actually should be enough to fix it. So test drinks. So we can see the particular values. So that looks good. That means we're pretty close to being able to actually do purchasing of something. We need to know how many sort of funds we've got available. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to create a script for our purchaser. Now this is going to be kept as something that is fairly simple, fairly minimal. And it's something where we would add more to it over time, but this is just getting a basic, simple sort of setup there for it. So we're going to have serialize field, and we will have int current funds. And then I want to be able to have a couple of essential functions here. So I'm also going to set up an interface, purchaser. So there needs to be a function for get current funds. And there also needs to be one for spend funds, we'll call this. So spend funds int amount. We're going to say that this implements iPurchaser. So initially it'll be grumpy, that's okay. We can create the implementations for this. So if you mouse over the arrow, you can see implement interface. So get current funds, just returns that. Spending, we want to check, okay, well, if current funds is greater than or equal to amount, then we'll return true. And we will do current funds minus equals amount. Otherwise, we'll return false. So that's good. Now our shop needs to know the purchaser. So what I'm going to do is, it won't have a serialized field. What I will do, and this is something where I'm trying to keep the interface for the shop as clean as possible. So I want to have iPurchaser, current purchaser, and while I generally would not do find objects for something like of this, and I will comment this, so begin testing code, end testing code. So current purchaser, I want to find some object in the scene that implements iPurchaser. Now, we can't use it with that, which is a little bit annoying. So what I'm going to do is just do find a purchaser. So you can't search based upon an interface, but we can find an existing purchaser. So when I refresh the shop UI, well, I'm going to rename this function to refresh shop UI categories. And we'll have a refresh shop UI. And we'll call this sort of common areas to refresh. So refresh shop UI. So what I want to do is, okay, well, if we have a current purchaser, then the funds, I want to have them updated. So the available funds text, and if I go to my item UI, I'm going to use pretty much this same formatting logic. If I was using this in a lot of places, I could put this in a static function somewhere, would be helpful. So if they're not null, then I want this to be current purchaser, get current funds, like that. And otherwise, available text, I'm actually just going to make that an empty string. So that's good. What I could also do is the purchase button, because we want to check if we've got an item selected. So, okay, our purchase button, we don't have an entry here for it. We're going to set up, and we'll bring in Unity Engine UI. Unity Engine UI, have a button, purchase button. Actually, I'll make that image. No, purchase button is what I want. I do also want to access the image for it as well. Potentially, for now we won't, but we could access the image so we could tint it. So what I would be doing is, okay, well, purchase button, and whether it's interactable, well, for it to be interactable, current purchaser has to not be equal to null, and selected item has to not be equal to null, and we have to be able to afford that selected item. So we also, and this starts to get really sort of lengthy, so I'd actually change this to, we'll bring these up here. So I'm going to check that, and our current purchaser get current funds is greater than or equal to selected item cost. Then we can set it to be interactable. So then we say that it is interactable. Otherwise, purchase button interactable is false. So we can't try and buy something if it's interactable, if it's not interactable. So that's good. We'll put that here. We've got a refreshing of the common thing. That's great. That means also every time we go to select an item, we should actually Run that. Now, if we don't have a selected item, that will be completely fine. That will work. And when we select a category, that actually also should check and see. We might now no longer have, that item selected. So F selected category is not equal to null, and newly selected category is not equal to null, and the category has changed. If that's the case, then our selected item needs to go to being null. So clear the selected item. So that's good. So far so good. We've added in those things. We're going to, with our purchase button, well, we're only able to click that now if we actually can spend the money. So we could go, okay, well, current purchaser, spend funds, selected item, cost, and then we do a refresh shop UI comment. What this should mean is we should be able to actually spend the money, select items. I need to create our purchaser. So we need them here. And we'll give them 10,000 to start. Shop UI, we need to link up to the purchase button so that it can toggle whether that is active or not. We'll just make sure we've got everything saved. So we can see our available funds. Purchase button is turned off. I can select juice. I can go to purchase. Now that's not linking through, and that's because we have to link up our buttons. So that will run shop UI on clicked purchase. Now exit isn't going to be doing anything currently, and that's okay. But we link that over to our shop UI. And we can go shop UI on clicked exit. And so now let's go and buy some things. So we can select, want to buy some juice, our money updates, water, keep buying things. You can see we've got some stuff that is much more expensive. So now I can't purchase that, but I could purchase a carrot. We've got our UI working. I wouldn't be able to purchase a tomato. We could also have it that the items could indicate when something could actually be afforded or not. So when we refresh the shop UI items, we could also here indicate whether stuff is able to be purchased. But that's something where as soon as we purchase something, we would potentially need to refresh that as well. So I would actually put that in our common refresh. So down here, so if I've got a selected sort of item, actually I don't even need it to be selected, I just need that to be item UI. So I could just go for each KVP and shop item to UI map. Now we want to make sure we don't make the mistake from last time where we didn't grab the correct entries. So I'm going to actually this time copy and paste so I don't make the same mistake. And I want to be able to go item UI, set can afford, if item cost is less than or equal to current purchaser, get current funds. Now we don't need that, but we might not have a purchaser. So that's okay. What I would do is if current purchaser is not null, then we run this. Otherwise, we just actually go item UI, set can afford to false. And then with that, we can come in to our shop item, public void set can afford. And then we can do stuff then with the text. So price, well, there's different things that we could do. So like the font style, there could be things that we mess with that. So we have strike through, for example. So we could have, we check if we can afford it, and if we can, then the font style is normal. Otherwise, it's strike through. So that just should mean, we'll make sure I've gotten rid of all of the errors. Oops, item UI, value. And we do actually need the item. So there we go. So what we should see is our UI is giving a bit of feedback. Now I could have changed the text to red. Generally want to try and avoid just using color as the only thing to signify. So we did get an error, which is fair. I need to check if shop item to UI map is not equal to null, because until we select a category, we don't have anything. So that's okay. Do that. So only refresh it if we actually have that set up. So yeah, I don't want to use color. I generally would avoid using color as the main indicator. So drinks, everything like that's fine. Fruit, all of those. Now tomato hasn't actually gone and refreshed, but what we might find is as soon as we select anything, it refreshes. So that's actually down to what we would do is after we've updated the items, we would do a refresh UI common. And now I could do both the strike through and updating the color. So that's something where doing both is okay. Just doing only color would generally not be great. So if we can afford it, we're going to make it that we use color white. Otherwise, we'll use color red. And I think that's the right color. There's multiple color variables we can change, but I believe that is the correct one. We'll find out. So we can see, so potentially, because we put it into the, so if you see a Stack Overflow, it means that you have run a function multiple times, which I had the function run itself. Generally, that's recoverable from. It'll actually give you an error for it. So now I can select items, go down to fruit. You can see tomato. I can select it, but it is very expensive. We could also make it that we prevent things being selected, but I think that's fine. We change category, it resets the purchase button. If I go and purchase lots of potatoes, the color there changes as soon as I'm out of funds. So it's good. We have our shop interface working. We can configure items. What gets shown in the shop UI is dynamic. We can set up so it's got a purchase that it's talking to. We are giving feedback on whether items are something that we could afford or not. And we're giving adjustments there so it won't go and allow you to try and purchase something if it's not actually something that's affordable at the moment. So we've got a setup there that is pretty flexible for then adding into other things. And it's something that we might revisit and add in other things, like adding in a shopkeeper having a particular inventory, or adding in discounts or cost modifications depending upon the purchaser, are also things that we could add in there. But for now, we've got a functional shop interface that we could then be dropping in. So we'll turn that as a final thing into a prefab. So I want a prefab not with the canvas, but the panel. So we've deliberately set this up so that if you want to embed it into existing UI, you can, or if you want it standalone, that's also easily doable. but that is now something that is ready to go and be dropped into existing projects. Thanks folks, hope you found the video interesting and helpful. If you have, chuck in a like and subscribe, really helps out, it's really appreciated. If you're looking for the code for the project, that code is available up on GitHub and the link to that's in the description below. You can use that code for any of your own projects, commercial, non-commercial ones, you're able to be using it. If you're looking for other videos, there is also a link in the description to a video archive where every new video gets added into that and you can search based upon descriptions, things like of that. If you've got any questions, chuck in a comment. And if you're looking for other ways to support the channel, then I do have a Patreon and there's a link to that in the description below as well. But until next time, bye.